Alright, what's up people? Welcome back to the turn-based combat tutorial. This is part 8. And in this episode we'll probably just be continuing our work with animations. We're going to try and hook it up with our code, and we will go from there. A couple things though before we dive right into it. I've gone ahead and cloned the Idle 1 and Idle 2 animations from the last episode into Idle 3 and Idle 4, where the only difference is that they're mirrored and renamed accordingly. This is just so that if you remember, if you'd hit play at the end of the last episode, you would have noticed that they all had the exact same movements and motion and animations, which is to be expected, but it just looked a little dumb. So I went ahead and added those animations, as well as made 4 copies of the player controller that we had at the last episode, and renamed them accordingly as well. And then just change the idle animation within each of those. And so now if we hit play, we'll notice that they all have different animations and it looks a little bit better. And you could add cycle offset as well so that they don't look quite so similar, but that's okay. So what we're gonna do now really quickly is go to our we're gonna go to our combatant stats script, and we're gonna start assigning all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and why not right here? Let's do a hide in inspector, since we don't want this to be visible in the inspector, but we want it to be public so that other things can access it. Animator, and I'll just call it anim. And we can go ahead and assign that here. We'll do anim equals get component in children. Because remember, the model is actually a child of the game object that has the combatant stats. And generally, you have an empty object with all the scripts on it, and then the models and stuff that may be subject to change later as a child, so you don't have to worry about like removing the meshes and stuff each time. So it is kind of bad practice that I'm assuming that there will be a component in the child, but also it is good practice to have everything separated out. So I think it's fine to do it this way. But we will, however, do a check to make sure that the animator is not null before doing a bunch of work on it. And we're also going to create a temporary variable here for our override controller. I'll just call it controller. And this will be equal to our runtime animator controller, and we're going to have to cast it because it's not always certain whether or not it's an override controller or not. And there's basically all we need to do is set each of our moves. We're gonna need to set the animation for that move into the slot. So actually, the way I think I'm gonna do this is make a list of strings really quickly. And there should be a better way to do this. But this is the way I'm gonna do it for now. We'll just call it labels. And this will be just a hard-coded list of strings, since we know what the animations are named in the order that they appear in the animator override controller. We can just directly transcribe that here, but we're not entirely certain how many moves we're gonna have. So I'm deciding to do it this way. Of course, the better way would just be to like limit the amount of moves that each of the player has. Well, sorry, new list of string. But it works. And then for not find object of type, int I equals 0, I is less than labels dot length. Right, why did I make it I should just have it be a string array. I'm being dumb. There's no reason to make a list when you could just have an array. Okay. Dot length and I++. Actually, I don't remember if we did the thing where we clamped the number of moves to... Yeah, no, we haven't. Okay. I did that in an old project of mine where I just clamped the number of moves to 4, so I was always certain that there would be 4 moves. And if there weren't, I'd fill it up with moves until there were 4. But anyways, what we're gonna do here... Uh... Hmm. Yeah, actually, we should use moves, since that's our variable one. And then if I is less than labels.length, then we can do what we need to do. So, and what we need to do, of course, is take our controller, use labels of I, and set it equal to, our moves of I dot animation. And this should be a count. Sorry. There we go. So to reiterate what this is doing, it's looping over all the moves, and if there are labels to match the number of moves there are, it'll go ahead and set override the animations in the animator. And we can sort of check that this has worked. Of course, we need to go ahead and set our runtime animator controller back to this temporary one we've created. But we can go ahead and check this really quickly using some of our knowledge. And I need to get a new keyboard or something. I suck at typing. But we're just gonna check length I++, and we're just gonna print out the name of the animation clip. And if you recall from the last episode, all of these don't use the new Magic 1 or Magic 2 and Melee 2 animations I've created, or that I downloaded, because I assigned all of these before I downloaded those in the last part. So if we go ahead and run this, the print should not have any of those 2, and in fact it doesn't. So we know that it works, which is great. We now have access to animations. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this since it's not actually necessary. And now if we go back to our Turn Combat Manager, we can start a little bit of work. And in fact, one thing we will need to do as well in this combatant thing, rather than do it this way, we're just going to do stats.anim. Cool, okay. So we need to trigger the attack animation on the player and then on the enemy. And to do this, we're going to need to set up a couple receivers for animation events. But first off, let's go ahead and trigger the attack animation on the player. And the way we're going to do this, we're just going to do player.anim.set bool is attacking to true, and we'll do player.anim.set integer move type, or move index, I think it was, and it'll be player stats.move. Yeah, so we need to get the index of the move. Dot index of move. That was a lot easier than I was about to just do. I was about to like do a for loop or whatever. Index of. Gotta remember that that exists. So we set that integer, and then we also set. Wait, is that all we need to do? Move index. Oh, yeah, we need to set whether or not it is a melee attack. So to do this, we'll do player.anim.set bool, and is melee will be based on a couple of things. It'll be, so first off, whether move.aoe area of effect. If it's area of effect, it shouldn't be the melee attack animation. Well, you shouldn't need to run up to do an area of effect attack. So that, and if move.cost is greater than 0. Wait, it should be is melee is true when hold on. I'm trying to think. This should be an or. So if the move is area of effect or the move that cost is greater than 0, then we want to negate that so that is melee is false. Otherwise, it is true. So now, hopefully, we can see something in action here. So if we go to our turn combat manager, go ahead and test combat. We go ahead and select. I gotta click back in here. So that'll show us. Okay, that did not do. Okay, so let's see. Player 1, we go click on the animator here. Okay. So we have them. Let's do on this one. And none of this has happened. Wait, are we even playing the move? Hold on. Let me make sure that that happens first. Player played Extreme Edge. So this happened. And whether or not this happened remains to be seen. So let's. I forgot to. I should have pulled this window up first. But first off, let's go ahead and test combat. Player. And now we can see that they're. So if we do Extreme Edge, it should be doing an area of effect attack. So is melee should be false. Is attacking should be true. And move index should be 2. Okay, yeah, that did happen. And I don't know if they actually did, because I wasn't watching. Oh, they're doing it again. I wasn't watching if they. Okay, well, that's basically it. We're not resetting it, which is why it's looping that way. But now if we go ahead and do backslash. And we want to look at player 1 here, or player 2. You go ahead and choose an enemy. It should be move index should be 0, is melee should be true, and is attacking should be true. Let's go ahead and they're not. That's happening. Why not? There we go. Okay, so that is happening. Okay, yeah, cool. So it is happening. We're seeing the attacks come out, and now we need to wait. So now that we've sort of triggered the attack, we need to wait until we've received the event telling us that the enemy has been hit. The enemy should know when to get hit as well. So let's go ahead and create a public method. So public void enemy take damage. Let's also create a public void what else do we need? I think that should be it for now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here let's create a quick private bool. Enemy took damage equal false. And we'll return that enemy took damage is equal to true. Well, we're not returning that, we're just setting that in that method. And so here we can do a yield turn new wait until. And in here we want to wait until enemy. Can we do it this way? I thought we needed. Yeah, no, we need like a delegate returns enemy took damage. Okay, and then once the enemy has taken damage, we can go ahead and reset all of the stuff that we need that we have assigned. Player.anim.setBool is attacking. We'll set that back to false. We also need to reset the melee. Actually, no, we don't need to reset that. We just need to make sure that is attacking is false. Yeah. And so now in between these two, so here we can start moving the player back to their spot, and here we can work on moving the player up to the enemy. Actually, a quicker way to no, this is fine. This is fine. I might make this. I'm inside a method. I might make this a boolean though, just so we have access to it. Okay. So we'll work on camera work later on, but for now. So first thing we'll work on is moving the player up to the enemy. So we only need to do this if it is a melee attack. So we've set this so get current animator clip info dot I wonder if there's a way to get the time. You know what, let's not worry about any of that. So to move the player up to the enemy, so if it is an area of effect, there'll only be one target. So we just have to sort of move our character towards our target. So we can do player.transform.translate in the direction of, so we'll create a vector 3 here to enemy, and this will be player.transform.position minus targets of 0.transform.position normalized, and like place your bets right now whether or not I got this backwards. We'll translate along the direction to the enemy times time.delta time. We'll multiply by 8 or 7 for now. Okay, and then the other thing I need to do is, so in the player phase, yeah, this weight needs to be removed. And right now the program will hang because it'll be waiting for this to become true, but that'll never happen. But we'll see whether or not the player moves to the enemy. So if we go ahead and on idle or start the turn combat, click idle 1 to make sure that that's linked up. Hmm. Alright, so this guy did not move towards his enemy at all. And that stuff is still... Oh yeah, that's supposed to be doing. But he didn't move towards his enemy at all. Oh, of course. This is only happening once. Wait, no, that should be fine, because it still well, we should still be able to see um how far they travel. Um hmm. This is one of those times where I think I should just figure out the mistake and then start recording again, but um hmm. Actually, we should make sure. Well, actually no, his melee was checked there, so we know it was melee. And then the direction to the enemy, have that, have their transform positions. Should save. Okay. You know what, let's just make it a drastic change so we can see it. Perhaps it's just too small for us to see. Yeah, okay, he moved backwards there. Oh, that's, wait. Hold up. So, okay, so it moved a little bit. It also moved the opposite direction, which tells me that, this is backwards. So, I always need to remember that it's the way you want to go. Okay, anyways, um, rather than do it this way, I think what might be easier is if we vectors3.lerp from our position to our target's position, and we want to do that. In that case, we don't need this. That might be the easier way to get the player where we need him to be. But I think it'll also make him jump instantly, which is fine. I'm just trying to test that it works. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. And then he does his, he'll run up an animation. Okay, so now what we need is to figure out why there's that delay. And I think the reason is in the animator itself. So we go to our animator. This has exit time, which it shouldn't. I will unclick that. Yeah, okay, so that shouldn't have exit time. In fact, none of the transitions on this going to something else should have exit time. Yeah. Because we want the feedback to be pretty much immediate. Okay. Cool. So that should fix that delay issue that we were seeing. Now the other thing is we need to figure out how to get the player to run up towards our target. So I'm thinking that'll happen here. So if it is a melee attack, then while Damage. Player.transform.position is equal to vector3.lerp targets 0.position or .transform.position. And we need to lerp our position, and we'll just do it by 0.5. No. Wait, no. We'll do by time.delta time. And so we'll figure out this enemy took damage now. Hopefully I haven't been recording for too long because this might take a little bit. But the way we're gonna do that is using animation events. And I think, yeah, since the enemies don't have animators at the moment, that's something we'll need to figure out first before we can actually, you know, reset back to or get a correct run up, and like, because we're going to be relying a lot on animation events. So I think yeah, let's just do it this way. Why not? So melee 1 is the one we're looking for. Yeah, so we want to add an event. Alright, I can drag it here. Okay, so here we want to add an event, and we'll call it enemy took damage. We want the turn combat manager, but of course we can't get the turn combat manager here. So we'll make it a prefab. Let's see, let's go to prefabs. I can't believe turn combat manager isn't already a prefab, but sometimes it'd be like that. Models player, melee 1. Go down to the animation event we just created, and we want to use our turn combat manager. This. Go ahead and apply that. And so that'll search for a method enemy took damage and set that to true. And that'll set this to false. And then we can player back to their spot. And I'm just gonna do player.transform.position is equal to old position. We'll find a better way to interpolate this later, but for now, just to make sure. So let's go ahead and start combat. Get our one. We need to do backslash here, because that's the only one I've made an event for at the moment. Okay, that isn't bad until he, you know, does that. Animation event has no receiver. Enemy took damage. Oh wait, is it public? It is public. Is there any other reason why enemy take damage? The importance of making sure you know how you spell things really shining through right there. So here I spelled it as enemy took damage, which honestly I think is a better name than enemy take damage. So I'll rename this enemy took damage. Okay. And now though, in test combat here, and go ahead and backslash this dude. I need to figure out what's going on with the input here. It isn't picking up. There we go. Idle 1 animation. Wait, idle 1. Oh yeah, that's the name of the thing. Has no receiver. One animation event. Why is it trying to find the animation event on this? Is my question. because I dragged in this object as far as I am aware. Well, I think that's something I will look into and then show the fix for in the next episode, because I feel like I've been recording for a long time. But you can see we're starting to make progress. And in fact, one thing we can do to sort of make this look a little bit better is, well, yeah, this will stop once the enemy takes damage, which will happen before they get there, so that should be fine. Yeah, I'll end the episode here. I realize things aren't working, so it's not that satisfying, but hopefully I'll find a fix, and we'll update in the next part. Thank you all for watching. I hope you see you there.